Our next conversation is about dialogue. And we have a politician here with us who is the party leader of the Thirdway Alliance. The Thirdway Alliance is a political party, and the party leader is Dr. Ekuru Aukot. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, Eric. First of all,
you're not a politician.
Now that you're associating politicians with very bad things, I distance
I
myself.
beg to be removed from that equation.
I distance myself. I'm first and foremost a lawyer, and that's what is my bread and butter. So no, not politics. I don't do politics full time. I love to, but I still have other responsibilities.
So you're not a politician.
Well, I participate in political affairs of our country.
Are you a politician?
I participate in the political affairs of our country.
Are you the leader of a political party?
I'm a lawyer. I'm a party leader of Thirdway Alliance Kenya. Yes, but that does not mean that to be a politician in Kenya today bears a very negative connotation. And for me, I play good politics, meaning I participate in the affairs of our country. I mean, I cannot, I think people really look at politics negatively. Politics for me is about public policy. That's why we're discussing about, for example, shifting the tax burden to mwananchi wa kawaida. That's all coming out of political decisions. And maybe I could reference a man called Bertolt Brecht, who talked about the political illiterates. And that, when people say that I don't want to participate in politics, they do not know that from political decisions comes the price of unga, of flour, the corrupt, and all those bad people. So I will urge Kenyans to look at politics from a totally different perspective. But I'm very happy actually with what's happening in our country today, even though I think President William Ruto's leadership is a blessing in disguise. Yes.
You'll tell us why. Hold that
I have an idea why.
Hold that thought. Janet Bogwa is...
Is she a politician?
No, I'm not a politician.
Janet is a... Janet is a politician. But your breed. The good politician.
Good politician.
Yes.
Good save, good save.
She participates in the political discourse of this country. And so today she has the day's quote. Listen to it and let's see.
Which is not political.
What do you think?
I feel like I know why he's going to say it's a blessing in disguise.
Yes.
So today's quote is by Nelson Mandela back 20 years ago in Trafalgar Square. He said, "Poverty and inequality have to rank alongside slavery and apartheid as social evils." Poverty and inequality have to rank alongside slavery and apartheid as social evils. You agree?
Yes, totally agree. And you can also add another quote from Plato that says that one of the consequences of refusing to participate in politics is that you'll be governed by your inferiors.
Yeah, I like that one.
And I think this is what this is what is manifesting in our country today. So, Eric, you also are a politician, because your refusal to participate in politics is why today the face of leadership in this country is Oscar Sudi, Farouk Kibet, and many others, many deplorables that we have in our political setup today. And we ask ourselves a question: why? Because for the longest time we've been fence sitters. Curious onlookers on what's happening, and that's why for me, even though from here I'm actually going to defend a client, but I still want to participate in politics and who actually is my leader today and what decisions are they actually taking. I mean, I saw a clip as I was coming here of Wetangula saying that he's going to take MPs to see President William Ruto. This is to forestall a possibility of, for example, impeachment. Remember, the president sometimes back asked, "You want me to go? How do you want me to go?" Of course, there are ways in which he can go under the Constitution, including impeachment. Now, when you have got a Speaker of the National Assembly clearly being compromised, taking members of parliament to see the president, what does that mean? You cannot bring an impeachment motion against the president because for lack of a better word, the executive is actually an extension. Or, parliament is an extension of the executive. So that's a dead parliament. So we don't have people's representatives. And that's why I think you see that the demonstrations today are actually begging to invoke Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, where sovereign power and authority vests in the people to exercise it directly or indirectly through the elected representatives. But now the elected representatives have actually failed the people. So the people are saying we now need to take power and form a government that actually will implement what is called the social contract, yeah, which has really failed, because the social contract is a contract between the people and the state. Now, you have to pick, you have to appoint an implementer of that contract, which is the government. So the government of the day has actually failed the people of Kenya, and that's why they're manufacturing all manner of things. For example, you've recently heard about the fact that Kenya is on the brink of anarchy. There are people plotting a coup. You know, the use of those words, I mean, as a lawyer, you have to deconstruct them. When you say plotting a coup, it means there are people actually who sat somewhere, plotted on how to take over government, you know, and therefore the intelligence of this country ought to tell us exactly who are these people who plotted this coup and what is the government doing about it. Kehara is being summoned to DCI. Yeah, so meaning there is intelligence about who actually sent the goons to Naivasha. So all these things, I mean, and I can see government is actually manufacturing a state of anarchy in order to justify the killings, the kidnappings, you know. And I think in the long run, I believe Ruto is booking a date with ICC again.
Is heading there?
I think he's booking a date, because these disappearances, kidnappings are all crimes actually known in international law. And
they're big and deep. Let's get into this conversation, and we wanted to discuss this dialogue conversation.
Yeah.
Last week, Raila Odinga addressed a media conference on Sabasaba. And he said, you know what, I wanted to go to Kamkunji today, but I couldn't go because now police have blocked everywhere. But you see what's happening now, we need to have dialogue. We need to have intergenerational conclave. He followed it up with a statement later and said, these are my thoughts about this, how this conclave should happen. You know, bringing leaders from across the country, have counties and all. Now, the political opposition has responded to this. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and PDP leader Martha Karua are in Seattle, America. Seattle. And they spoke about this, where the Gachagua is saying,
and I almost
dialogue
it was
for
a
what?
conclave of almost one ethnic group.
Yeah. Let's hear what the two leaders said.
My brother Rigathi anasema one term. Mimi ninasema no term. No term. Na ni kwa sababu, how many more must die so that Kasongo finishes one term? Munataka Ruto au munataka Ruto aende? Ndio.
It's not possible to have any dialogue with William Ruto, because the guy is a pathological liar. I don't think the Kenyan problem is talking to William Ruto, because even if what you agree, it will be a lie. Raila is totally irrelevant in the Kenyan political discourse, because every election cycle, he loses, he finds his way into government. Right now, he finds things are too hot for William Ruto. He is trying to distance himself. But if he was a patriotic Kenyan and he meant well for our country, he would disengage from Kasongo. We are saying the dialogue that we need is in the ballot box in 2027. That's where we need to sort out this question once and for all. You know, Raila has been in every dialogue, but the problems of Kenya do not end.
I propose an inclusive, intergenerational, national conclave to hear our people across all divides and come up with an irreducible reforms and changes necessary to take the country forward. I propose that the country urgently returns to the agenda of comprehensive police reforms, focusing on enhancing accountability, transparency, and improving the police to people relationship. So the conclave I envisage comes up with better and sustainable ways for addressing transparency, accountability, and impunity, especially with regard to corruption, and ensuring that leaders are held accountable for their actions. The proceeds of the national dialogue be subjected to a referendum.
So there we go. The call by Raila and reaction by Martha Karua and Rigathi Gachagua. Dr. Aukot, you wrote this Katiba as the CEO of the Committee of Experts. You know, you're just quoting it like, yeah, you're a lawyer. Article 1 of the Constitution tells us this and the other. Do we need another dialogue right now? Because this Katiba was actually a result of several dialogues that took place.
Complete balderdash.
Balderdash is what now?
Madogs.
Hey.
To be honest with you, it's a total waste of time for Kenyans, a total waste of our resources. It's another diversionary tactic from the real things that are bedeviling Kenyans right now. Kenyans are asking for accountability. For example, on the deaths, on the disappearance, on the kidnappings, you know, the state of the economy, everything has collapsed. Health, you shift it from NHIF to SHA sheet, whatever, you know, whatever that is. And then, of course, all these other things, you know, education, bursaries, whatever. That's what Kenyans are asking. Jobs, the promises of 2022, that's what Kenyans are asking. Account for what you promised us in 2022. Now, I think Ruto has found a person to use, just like previous regimes have done. And I think if you have to look at the history, political pedigree of Raila Amolo Odinga, actually is the longest government-serving civil servant. From 1997. Why are you laughing, Eric?
Think about
it's context.
Yeah.
Raila has always.
How long has he drawn a government salary in one way or the other?
Absolutely. I mean, from 1997, during the time of cooperation and partnership, or cooperation, as I'll put it, to the Nusumkate, to the handshake, now to the broad-based, which is really blood-based government, you know, or bread-based government. So Raila has always been there. And you see, the genius of many failing governments or presidents is that we need to find the loudest noisemaker out there, bring him closer to us. And Raila has invested so much. He has a political capital that you cannot deny him. He also has sycophantic following. You know, and those guys, sycophants, if he mobilizes them, so the person of President William Ruto, just like Uhuru did, was to say, I think I'm not achieving what I promised Kenyans. There's a bigger noisemaker out there who can actually mobilize people to destabilize me. And for example, if you go back to 2024, when the Gen Zs came out to protest against the finance bill, 24-25, they were so well organized. But one of the mistakes that they made was to go visit Raila. Now, Raila saw an opportunity here. And of course, with Raila, panic, State House panicked. And Ruto actually panicked. And he thought that if Raila comes on board fully, then I'm
with this
done.
Gen Z.
Yeah. So what did he do? He approached Raila. By the way, there's an allegation that actually they're in-laws, they're brothers-in-law. So I don't know. You can't disown your own brother-in-law at some point.
Allegedly.
Yeah, okay, allegedly.
We have to use allegedly.
Okay, I see there are many lawyers here.
They just sprinkle.
So I think the point I'm trying to make is that Kenya's politics has actually been commercialized a long time ago, and it revolves around the same individuals. Kind of reminds me of the narco business and the mafia. That, you know, when we you know, if you block me on my passing route, I sit down with you and I say, hey, you know, we are losing business. I'll give you 10%, but allow my goods to go through. So that's exactly what's happening in Kenyan politics today. That the same noisemaker. That's why Kenyans have refused to move away from certain names, certain personalities. So we are stuck. You know, it also again reminds me of the house and the field Negro. So you go the house Negro thinking that he's better off than the field Negro, you know, but they're all slaves anyway, you know. So this dialogue for me will achieve nothing, just like the NADCO achieved nothing.
Is there any dialogue that could achieve something?
For example, if you really want to, I think one of the things that we've been saying for the couple of years back is, why don't we implement the Commission of Inquiry reports? And we have so many that address many issues. For example, the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation report. Because that's exactly what Raila is suggesting. You know, when they use the word conclave, I was wondering whether we are going to elect a pope. You know, the word conclave has always been synonymous with election of a pope. And I think Raila is mischievously diverting Kenyans. Because, and I agree with the Gen Zs, how do I sit on the same table with somebody who has killed me, who has maimed me, who is threatening actually to kill me? Like President William Ruto has said, shoot them in the legs. Now Nelson Koech, another nincompoop, has come out to say, shoot them. Don't shoot them in the leg, shoot to kill them. So he's confirming what Murkomen said, and Murkomen said that these are orders from above. Later on, of course, President William Ruto comes to validate what Murkomen had said. So how do you sit on the table with such people? And secondly, is that really a debate we should be having as a country? We should be talking about how did Ojwang die in police custody? How did Njoki die in police custody? Who killed the peaceful demonstrators? And but if you read Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya, it talks about peaceable, demonstrating peaceably. Yeah? And if you recall, the Gen Zs are only armed with a phone, a flag, bottle of water, and maybe a mask. And they're saying, we are peaceful, we are peaceful. Then you shoot at them. So really, who is causing a state of anarchy?
Right.
It's not the Gen Zs. It's not the demonstrators who are peaceably demonstrating. And I think the cracks, the deeper issue that I think William Ruto and the administration do not understand is that people now want to take over government, take over their power, because they see there is a failure on the people on the people they entrusted with that power. They are misusing it. They're actually abusing it, and even peeing on people that get them that power. So I think if you read Article 37, it's actually not very restrictive. We can picket anywhere, including State House. And by the way, State House is not Ruto's home. He's a tenant. That's a public property.
You know what I wanted to ask you?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this whole thing for diversionary. It's really been on my mind this weekend. And then you've brought it up. Number one, have you seen this at play before, where there's an attempt to distract people? And then number two, what is the bigger play here? I don't know how much we can say, because it's probably thinking through, it's probably guessing. But you're right, it's like they're stoking the fire. People are saying we're demonstrating peacefully, we just want access to our rights, but then it's met with this overwhelming use of words like coup, anarchy, even stoking the tribal card. It's largely coming from them. So number one, have you seen anything at this scale before in terms of politicians using these, playing these games, quote unquote? And then number two, what really are they trying to get our eyes off?
I think what they're trying to see, I think the heat is too much for the government and Ruto in particular. You see, the difference between these demonstrations and the Raila-led demonstrations is that now people really want to take power back. They want to eject the tenant in State House. They have said that. That has never happened before. You see, Raila will go and swear himself in Uhuru Park, call himself the people's president. That doesn't shake the hold of power. But when people say we are coming after you, you've never seen Kenyans actually invade the National Assembly, the People's Representative House, because they're saying you've let us down. We are now taking back our power. And they are invoking Article 1 of the Constitution. Say, now we want to exercise this power directly. And exercising this power directly, we are also going to eject the guy in State House. So that has never happened before. So I think the mischief in this dialogue is to try and preserve Ruto's term to completion up to 2027. Because I'm sure Ruto, being a very clever politician, not necessarily the brightest one, I'm sure he's reading what's happening in the world. You've probably seen what's happening in Bangladesh. He's seen what happened in Burkina Faso and many other countries, Syria, and others. So he's seeing that my term is not cast in stone. People are now saying, we are tired of you. You must go now. And I think that's really shaking. So what is the relief that we want? Less danganya Kenyans, it was Zubaisha Kiasi, so that we buy this time frame. I think Ruto has lost confidence, in my view, as a president. I've never seen the most hated, ridiculed president in the history of Kenya. I mean, people say Kenyatta was bad, Moi was bad, except for Kibaki, Uhuru was bad, but this is probably, to use, I think, Mike Tyson's word, the baddest.
Yeah.
I guess there's no such word in English.
But yeah.
So I think the truth for the matter is President William Ruto has lost legitimacy. And I recall him asking Kenyans, you say Ruto must go. How do you want me to go? There are mechanisms in which he can go. He can actually resign today. He can be impeached, but we know now Parliament cannot impeach him. But I'm also thinking, I think we need to book Ruto into a mental facility. Because I honestly think that some of the things that he says, for example, he picked the Constitution and the Bible and say that I swear to protect and uphold this Constitution. Meaning he must preserve and protect the rights of Kenyans. But then at the same time, you are saying, shoot and maim. His surrogate say shoot and kill. So in legal term, in legal language, when you swear, you write an affidavit, you say, I, Eric Latif, a Kenyan of sound mind.
Kenyan adult of sound mind. Yeah.
So you actually wonder now, really, with all these contradictions and these many messages, can you actually say our president is a Kenyan of sound, an adult Kenyan of sound mind?
I wanted to ask about the constitutional legal culpability for those statements by Murkomen, by Koech. Yeah. Yes.
So, can you respond to that after this break? Let's take a break, a quick one. 27 minutes after 7, we are hosting Dr. Ekuru Aukot. He's a party leader of the Thirdway Alliance. And we're talking about dialogue and what this means and whether there is any room for dialogue, whether it makes sense legally, politically, or even socially. We'll be back in a moment. Good morning.
We have a caller that will come to in a moment and then come back to Mariam's question because it was important. Unless we take the caller now because we might lose him. I wanted to sample some feedback on YouTube, but let's take the caller so that we don't lose him. Please remind me what his details are. Okay, Michael from Nairobi. Good morning, Michael. Do you have a question for Akili or any contributions you want to make today?
Good morning. I have a question for Ekuru Aukot. I believe he's a lawyer.
Yes.
We believe so too.
Unfortunately so.
Go ahead, Michael.
Question. Now, what is the threshold like? Is legally kuna this provision that a president can dissolve parliament? Now, what is the threshold to be met in the president to dissolve parliament? And then question 2, like if there's an MP or a member of parliament that is not representing like what the people of a particular constituency are for, is it possible for it to be declared that this person is not an MP? Because the primary work of an MP like is representation. So what if an MP does not represent the people of a constituency, represent in this case, let's say the executive?
Right.
He or she.
Thank you.
Now, when that MP or that member of parliament does not represent the people of the constituency in which he or she is elected, is it possible to be cleared? He or she is not an MP. He or she should not participate in the makings of the law. He's not a legislator.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, so threshold.
Okay.
No, so let me start with that. I think Article 100 of the Constitution is very clear. It was called the recall clause. Means that when a member of parliament fails to represent, members of that constitution can actually recall that by gathering enough signatures and then fire him. And I think that's the whole weight in Article 1, where you're saying that power actually vests in the people to exercise directly or indirectly. And I think if we were to bring any amendment to the Constitution today, I will actually amend Article 1 to allow the people, say in a constituency or even in a ward, in a county, in the country, to go into a referendum and say we are dissatisfied with the representation of this particular member of parliament and therefore we are recalling him. And that's the power people have in Article 100. I didn't understand the first question though.
The first question, is there a threshold for the president to dissolve parliament? Are there instances in law that allow the president to dissolve parliament?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you recall the Maraga Maraga ruling, and even the Supreme Court actually, where Parliament actually fails to enact certain legislation. And then you need to read this with Schedule 5 of the Constitution of Kenya, where there are timelines on passing certain legislations. And I think the Supreme Court and Maraga in particular confirmed that, for example, the law on gender, Parliament has failed to actually pass the law on gender, and there are timelines. So with that, the president then can dissolve Parliament. So the CJ needs to inform the president that Parliament has failed to enact certain legislation. So with the refusal just to pass certain under the law, and you need to look at Schedule 5, the president can actually dissolve Parliament. But then, can the president dissolve himself? Because that's exactly what...
But there's no other instance. For example, the president cannot dissolve Parliament because Parliament is not working or something like that. This is just...
No,
in this
under the
case,
current constitution, I'm not sure.
Parliament is not properly constituted in terms of the gender balance, then, and that's what the Maraga advice to the president was based on, right?
Yeah.
That this Parliament is not properly constituted in gender. So you're required to dissolve it.
I'm not sure I need to refresh my memory on that. But I know, for example, in terms of just their obligation and failure to it, so long as the CJ brings it to the attention of the president, then he can actually dissolve it. And remember, Uhuru refused to. There are very clear grounds why he should have dissolved Parliament at the time.
Okay. If I come back to Mariam's question, you had some
just very quick feedback. Right, John Mwangi, we want dialogue that's not for a few people in boardrooms, but for real citizens on the ground, real dialogue. And Dubi Simi is like, this dialogue is about what really, and they put caps and question marks, like for whom and for what. Then we have, there's people who are going back and forth with each other. Then Charles Tungo says, I believed in Raila for a long time, voted him in 4 times. Every time he got into government, somehow he didn't put his voters' sentiments before his selfishness. Now I'm out of that foggy area. It cleared up. Global Peace Ambassador has similar sentiments. I've always supported ODM, but how could they talk about a national conversation or dialogue? What a joke. What did NATCO achieve? And so on. Those are just some of our fixes. I know there's more feedback we can sample throughout the show, but we don't want to lose sight of Mariam's question.
Yes, it was... Yeah, basically
culpability.
The culpability. And add on to that, now the Wajir woman rep, Fatma Jaha, I hope I've said her name, Fatma Abdi, who says, basically, if the votes are not enough, we'll still...
So a number of institutions ought to have taken action immediately against those Murkomen, Nelson Koech, and now Fatuma. For example, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission ought to have actually come on board immediately. IPOA ought to have summoned all of them. DCI ought to have actually asked Murkomen and the rest to actually come and record statements. And I'm happy that IBC has already responded to Fatuma to say that mutaiba na nini. So meaning now IBC is watching very carefully. But most importantly, the President of the Republic of Kenya ought to have relieved Murkomen of his responsibilities. The Speaker of the National Assembly today ought to actually reprimand Nelson Koech for those utterances. And I think this is just, fanning the flames. This is exactly what they're doing. But, is
there a legal basis beyond the political culpability? Is there a legal basis at all that, one can go and compel the president to relieve Kipchumba Murkomen of his responsibilities, or anyone can go and say that they are offended by what Nelson Koech said? Is there anything legal?
You see, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission can actually recommend for the prosecution of Murkomen and Nelson Koech and even Fatuma, because they are suggesting the omission of a crime. So that's why I'm saying they ought to have recorded statements right now by DCI and National Cohesion and Integration Commission and CIC, and then when they investigate, or IPOA, when they investigate, they should actually recommend to the DPP to prosecute, or DCI to investigate, and then DCI to recommend to DPP for prosecution of these individuals.
There's a question Latif had asked earlier. I don't know whether it was, you already answered it. Let's say in a world where people embrace dialogue, though, if people are just like, okay, fine, when and how would it be meaningful? I don't know whether you already spoke to it.
So for me, I think talking of dialogue in the context of Kenya, especially being driven by the same people, makes no sense to me. But if you're talking about, for example, a commission of inquiry, and I think maybe we should let me draw parallels with an organization that I'm consulting for in Australia. These are people who are pushing for the prosecution or the trial of the Australian government for committing acts of genocide against the Aborigines. You know, the landowners, the original landowners in. So if you were to draw parallels with what they are doing, they already presented a case before the ICC actually for the prosecution. So in the context of Kenya, I think what we need to do is build a case, you know, but that case ought to be based on certain findings. So dialogue will not make certain findings that will enable us to actually prosecute. I think we need a sort of a commission of inquiry. But who will set up that commission of inquiry? Under the current conditions, it cannot be the president of Kenya who can set up such a commission of inquiry. But it does not mean that we, the people, cannot actually gather evidence and petition the ICC through some organization. Like, for example, the Kenya Human Rights Commission can do that. The National Commission, Kenya National Human Rights Commission can also do that. And many other NGOs can actually push for this. Because in Oklo, in Australia, are actually doing it. And they're getting the ear of the ICC prosecutor as we speak. So even in the context of Kenya, we can actually do that. But this dialogue will not give us that opportunity. So we need some sort of gathering. And I like what Gachagua is doing, not necessarily to say he's the best, but I like the fact that he's actually, I hope he's putting together a team to actually gather evidence for purposes of presenting before the ICC for the prosecution of President William Ruto, either before or after he leaves office. And I hope he leaves office before 2027.
With that
sorry, Maria.
No worries. I was just going to ask, the last few years have kind of shown that the international community and international law are somewhat toothless. So I wonder what the why is.
So the international community, in my view, always look after their interests. I think it was Ronald Reagan who said that America has no friends. You know, but it's only concerned about its interests.
Back in the days, call he made.
Exactly, famous call he made. So if you look at the international community, for example, today, they look for the weakest of African leaders to advance the imperialist tendencies. And that's unfortunately what's happening. If you look at our president, he's so obsessed with this issue of climate change. I mean, which is not really, well, it's a big issue globally, but if you come back home, is it really a major concern for us as Kenyans? It is a concern, but it's not the major one. People are concerned with the basic things. And so if you compare,
is it our burden to bear?
Exactly. So if you draw parallel, for example, the way Ruto is parling with the West, the imperialist, compare him with Ibrahim Traore or Burkina Faso. Just after 2 years into office, he's cleared the national debt, he's done some flagship projects that actually are transforming Burkina Faso. He's told the French to bugger off because you used to steal our uranium. You're only paying us, I think, was it 80 euros at the time, per kg. Yeah. And they tell them, no, if you want to buy our uranium, buy it at the market, at the global price. So that's a transformational leader. And people say, okay, he's a military guy, but so what? There are many people who are democratically elected, hide behind being democratically elected, but actually oppress their people even more than those who are military. I mean, look at Mali, look at Guinea, Burkina Faso. They're doing so well for their countries. So those imperialist tendencies actually find their way in very weak African leaders. Because we are a rich country. I mean, I can say I'm lucky, I've traveled the world, worked out of the country. Let me tell you, we have a very beautiful and very rich country. Our only problem is that we have entrusted it to hyenas. You know, it's like you lock your sheep and goat with a hyena, and then tomorrow you find one of your sheep has been eaten, and you blame the hyena.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was also watching how Trump was hosting. I think it was 5 heads of state from the continent, and even the selection of who was people who were I don't know. It sounded very sycophantic. I think there was only one towards the end in Francophone who said, "Look, we're open for business, but if you don't come first, we'll just open it up to other people." But the others were, "Yes, sir. No, sir." It was quite frustrating. Sorry.
Is it not head of state to head of state? Who's the sir in this?
Right.
It's always but that's how the African leaders have actually belittled us. Because if you look at the rest of the world today, it's actually looking up to Africa. And I think maybe China is the only clever people here who have said that, you know, we are not bothered about your internal matters.
We just want to do
biashara.
Sorry, there's a caller, Baxton, I believe. Caxton. My apologies. The third time's a charm. Caxton, good morning. Do you have a question or comment today?
Yeah, morning to you.
Morning, go ahead.
Can I say ejoka to mheshimiwa? Bunda mechoka.
Yes.
Ejoka. Yeah.
You know, that's one of the original languages. In fact, the rest of you,
yes. So,
from the cradle of humankind.
We really fall short of leaders. One thing is that one thing that is clear is that all these were the Kanu YK92 hoax, and actually, the way they are leading, the way they are doing that empowerment, this is just the same system, the way Nyayo used to, and we are really messing up the country. I don't think if they are going to win us. People are well intelligent these days. I mean, we have some who knew how Kanu did. And at one point, Kanu really had lots of money. But then people ate the money, and people were, and all those leaders had to be kicked out. Time is right. How much really the Gen Z really gave Mr. President when he called them? They gave him actually. Actually, he had won the entire vote for him just to fix the country. He messed up. He recycled, and he kept on recycling. Surely, maybe to mention the Homa Bay, there is one Homa Bay who was in April, kicked out midnight, replaced midnight, just because the other one, I think, said something contrary.
Thank you, Carson.
We are not going to lead this country na hasira. Hutaongoza inchi na hasira.
Sawa, Carson.
No way.
Asante. Yeah. Excel. Daktari.
Yes.
You know, if you look and you know, you've been on the presidential ticket, right? You've been on the ballot, and you got many votes. How many were they?
Nasikia waliiba.
Lakini zile walikupatia zilikuwa ngapi?
I can't remember, but I think
it's a substantial number. Okay, but the reason why you are putting yourself out there, and I've asked you this before, is because you said, I mean, if not me, why then who?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
If we don't participate in this, then who? If we look right now ahead of 2027, are you seeing Kenyans actually starting to pick out leaders? Or are you seeing Kenyans picking apart leaders? I always argue that, you know, we are very good at voting out, but we don't actually think about voting in. Are we changing?
I think at the risk of blowing our own trumpet as a party, there's an assessment that was done, an audit of all manifestos, and actually ours was one of the best manifestos. Some of the things that the guys are trying to do right now are things that we put in our manifesto in 2017. Because I think for us, we are coming from a point of we have experienced this problem, this is how we can fix it. So yes, Kenyans are very gullible when it comes to picking up leaders. They don't really interrogate the persons, their personalities, what they have done. So unfortunately, that's us Kenyans. We don't really interrogate who are these people that actually want to be our leaders today. Kenyans don't also critically look at what are they proposing. For example, when William Ruto, I think, basically managed to con the entire country into the presidency, Kenyans did not interrogate who is William Ruto. Did you know, Eric, that William Ruto is probably the longest serving elected politician in the history of Kenya today? The only person who had beat his record was Kibaki, the late Kibaki. From 1997, William Ruto has never lost an election.
Yep.
Then he has also held very critical positions in government, including being minister, assistant minister, associating himself with power, very close power, deputy president for 10 years. So when he says, I want to be your president now, did Kenyans actually critically analyze and say, okay, what has been this man's track record in terms of contribution? What transformative agenda can we actually associate him with? that now will convince us, let's give this guy the opportunity to be our president. So this can also be, of course, spread to all other leaders, you know, and therefore right now, the excitement you see with the Kenyans, oh, Matiang'i, I don't know who is who, but you know, you fail to say, these people have been part and parcel of the government for many, many years. And some of the problems we're experiencing today are very historical. And who have been in government to accumulate these problems today? Same faces. I'm really hoping, and like I said earlier, I think President William Ruto's presidency is a blessing in disguise for this country. In this way. One of the things that I think William Ruto achieved, and that you cannot take away from him, is to remove this fake claim of dynasties. Yeah? And therefore, he transplanted himself into the common mwananchi and said, okay, I'm one of your own. I used to sell chicken. You know, I associated myself with the wheelbarrow guy, the mtu wa mjengo and all that. That he did very cleverly, got himself to the presidency, but now he has failed those people. Now my only hope, and that's why I'm saying it's a blessing in disguise, is that Mama Mboga, the wheelbarrow guy, will now critically say, this man actually lied to us. And I hope that's an awakening call. I hope it is for Kenyans to say, now we need to interrogate actually, who is this who wants to be our president?
Are you seeing that happening? Have you come across any
there is a conversation,
group, any community where that is happening?
There is a conversation going on. I don't know, it's not pronounced. I know there are people who are saying, we love what Gachagua is doing. Because like they say, I mean, the phrase was said, to catch a thief, send a thief. Yeah. So Gachagua was an insider, and so are many of them. But now it's like a jilted lover affair. You know, like in divorce matters, when you do divorce cases, sometimes we lawyers are shocked. You know, people says, you know, we loved each other, we married under love, and then all of a sudden, when things disintegrate, the kind of nasty things people say about each other, and that leads us to the fact that, you know, this marriage has broken down irretrievably. So
sometimes after the irretrievably, you'll be as a wakili waiting for them to show up to court, and they tell you, wakili, tumerudiana. We're good. Asante, tumerudiana.
Yeah.
Or they come in matching vitenges.
So to your
is that a possibility?
That happens.
Yeah.
That happens.
And
In fact,
in marriages.
So I don't know. I don't know how true. I don't know how true. Yes, I don't know how true. Yes, in the political marriages, I think the only thing Kenyans should be careful about in political marriages, it's not the same as the other marriages as we know it, because these people can still rudiana, just like you, Mariam, you say, you are in court there, you really want to argue a case for your client, then all of us shock on you, they are actually together. But there is a case where I think a couple came into court dressed in the same same outfit.
They are united again.
And I think, the judge just chased about it. So, but we have to be very careful about political marriages because, and this is really, you are raising a very fundamental question, Brother Eric. Kenyans need to look at, for example, Raila and William. Let's go back to Uhuru and Raila. The way they used to insult each other, you know, Mlevi, Mutiabangi, Sujini, then all of a sudden, handshake, my brother. Ruto and Raila, Mwizi wa Mashamba, Kitendawili, vice versa, and then Kidogo, my brother. Yeah, and even holding hands. So I think Kenyans really need to begin to interrogate. And I know there are Kenyans who are saying, let Gachagua inject as much as possible because we need that information. We need that expose of how this guy, you know, was misgoverning, the lying. Because even with Gachagua, you will say, okay, you are a truthful man, a man of God, but you are sent to go and lie. Surely, what do the 10 Commandments say? Thou shalt not lie. So somebody is telling you, go and kill Janet, my sister, and then I just go and do it. And then later on when things go wrong,
alikuwa anapanga sana.
Yeah.
Hata Janet vile alienda.
Exactly. So what Kenyans are praying in, I mean, from the conversations I'm having on the sites with people is that I wish another team could crop up. This is what Kenyans are actually hoping. That another new neutral team without blemishes, you know, could just come up and really have a honest conversation with Kenya and say, and for some reason, I think people say warming up to Maraga, you know, and they're saying, I think Maraga could be another Kibaki, you know, and maybe we may need a wise man like Maraga into leadership, hoping that he can also put in, if he's successful, to put in a very good team. But it has to be a team of Kenyans who cannot be compromised. And I think that's the bigger challenge, because today, if you have leaders who come and flaunt about, I don't know how expensive my watch is, my belt is, that's cheap. It's really, really cheap. Who cares whether you walk naked or not? I mean, there are many people who...
Kenyans do, my friend.
Yeah?
That's to Eric's point.
How does that put food on your table, Eric?
It doesn't. But even when I see these calls for dialogue, we know the game at play, which is, it's usually, one, it's tribal, and they've really tried to shift us back into the tribal cocoons. It's if my person and their person have agreed, then what is the problem? So then we could be here discussing all of this, in aqua ground, things are very different, and the dialogue works. They go, they create another NADCO, BBI, bread-based, whatever, and it quells the tension. I love that term, but really I don't know if
but you can see, I think, and I hope that Kenyans are actually getting cleverer and cleverer by the day, that it's the same people, because whatever they're going to craft in this dialogue will be about to accommodate themselves in government. And I think the bitterness you see from some of this, the fallout, is because we are not eating together. We are not benefiting. And I don't know, I'm sure probably you guys also interact with these individuals. You can see, for example, the excitement about, the largesse of life, you see vanity, all over. And then you wonder, okay, you see, I wake up in the morning and I think about my clients. First and foremost. I think it was the Prime Minister of, is it Bhutan? It's a country where the Prime Minister is a surgeon. He wakes up in the morning, reports to work, to the hospital, has a meeting with his doctors, goes into theater, finishes the operation, then he goes to his office about 12 or 2 p.m. Doesn't own a car. On the weekends, he rides a bicycle, and it's one of the happiest, I think, countries in the world, So I think we need to simplify leadership in Kenya. And it has to begin with, how much are we paying a public servant? Honestly, if you haven't made it in life, now under your profession, and you go into politics, I know some of these fellows are, that's why you see...
You go into public service to make money and to grow wealthy. But Dr. thank you for joining us today. We hope to have you again and again soon. Dr. Ekuru Aukot is the party leader of the Thirdway Alliance. He's a former presidential candidate. He was the CEO of the Committee of Experts on Constitution Review. He's a lawyer. He's now going to court. Keep it here. In the next hour, we want to ask ourselves, the new IEBC commissioners, how much work do they have ahead of them? Mula Musau from ILOG will be joining us. Keep it here for that.